All right, everybody. Aaron Breitman with a raspy voice. I was a little bit of a game time decision. Lost my voice a couple of days ago, and it's starting to come back. But apologize for this. But had to do a video after, after every game. But, of course, this one, what a huge win for Rutgers. 61-55 over Michigan State at the Garden. Wild atmosphere. Kudos to Rutgers fans. I mean, that was tremendous. I couldn't be there, but to watch it on TV, first of all, Danielle Marshall in the pregame saying Michigan State has a home court advantage. Made no sense, but Rutgers fans really showed out. It was great to see. That was a wild environment. It did remind me of 3 years ago when they played Michigan there, and it was a wild environment there as well with Rutgers fans. But attendance was right under 15,000. And Rutgers fans were just awesome today. So, you know, it should not go. It really, I sound like Pikel starting off with it, but it's really true. And, you know, this team gutted it out. This is a game that good teams win when they're not at their best. You know, offensively, Rutgers really struggled in the first half. Shot 24% in the first half, I think. Miserable. You know, just looked really tight. On offense, the good news is defensively, they were locked in from the opening tip on. Tremendous defensive performance from this team. They're now 8-0, holding opponents under 65 points in Big Ten play, and they're 0-4 when they don't. So it's not rocket science, right? But what I think is important to understand about this team, they have a ceiling. Most teams do, other than the top 5 teams that are going to win the national championship or compete for a national title. Rutgers has a ceiling, no doubt. They're offensively challenged at times. I wrote about it this week, how I think, you know, the way they share the basketball is a really encouraging sign because they're going to have games where they have good offense because they play the right way. They're just not a good shooting team. Excuse me, I know I sound terrible, but they're an elite defensive team, and they proved it again today. They held Michigan State to 34.5 shooting, 31% in the second half. Michigan State only 4 of 21 from 3 today. You know, Michigan State outplayed them in a lot of metrics. You know, rebounding, they were plus 10. Plus 10 on the boards. They were plus 2 on second chance points, plus 5 off the bench. Points in the paint was pretty even. Rutgers plus 2. Fast break points plus 4. Michigan State. But Rutgers just, I mean, defensively, they just shut them down. They got stops. And then this team closed out. You know, they know how to close. Worst free throw shooting performance in 2 months. They were 10 of 18. They were going 1 of 2 down the floor, like multiple trips in the second half. And it just felt like with 5 minutes to go, damn, like this is going to be one that we're just going to be kicking ourselves for, and it's going to eat us alive because they're leaving points on the board. And you know what? They pulled it together. 12 of 16 down the stretch. Mulcahy and McConnell. Spencer got to the line a few times. And overall, listen, they finished 67%. Excuse me, 65%, 67% in the second half. But they 12 of 16 down the stretch. They closed it out. Izzo put the onus on them to make them. Fouling with 2 minutes to go. And Rutgers closed it out. A big shift was, you know, second half adjustment. Right adjustment. Wish they did it earlier in the game. But they attacked the rim. They got the ball to Cliff. And then Mulcahy down the stretch took it over. Those back-to-back layups. I have to go back and look. But that turned the game. When he did that on back-to-back possessions, you felt the tide turn. And it did. It did. And that's what your seniors have to do. He's your senior point guard, and he came through in a big way. He led them with 17 points tonight, 4 of 7 from the field, 8 of 12 from the line. He missed a few uncharacteristic, but he really stepped up down the stretch. I think he was 5 of 8, so he made 3 of his last 4. Only 3 assists tonight. But he did have 3 steals. And Caleb McConnell, Cliff, let's go to Cliff. 15 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks. He was gigantic inside. He really did a much better job in the second half. of being under control and, you know, just taking it to the rim. 9 second-half points on 4 of 5 shooting. He also had 7 boards. All 3 blocks came in the second half. So he stepped up big time in that second half. And then you had Caleb McConnell. Listen, I know he makes mistakes. I know he makes some mistakes that people, you know, feel like are bonehead mistakes or just he shouldn't be making them. He's not a perfect player. He's never going to be an all-star on the offensive end. However, that defensive performance today was elite. And it was worthy of Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Hoggard, the point guard, he had 5 turnovers. Okay, he had something to do with that too. But McConnell was everywhere. And he lifted this team energy-wise on the defensive end the whole way. His value is just, I don't know. I don't think you can ever talk enough about his value. Just based on what he brings on the defensive end. It was an elite performance from that perspective. He also had 9 second-half points. And he was he good on the boards? Well, no, he didn't have a lot of boards, but those steals in the second half. I mean, Caleb, Cliff, Spencer, and Mulcahy played 18 and 19 second-half minutes. So they were on the floor the whole time. I know people are asking about Andre Hyatt. He didn't play a lot. He played 4 second-half minutes. Mawat Mag, obviously, huge concern. Played great in the first half. 7 points, 3 rebounds. I literally tweeted, his development as a finisher at the rim has been so impressive this season. And I got to go back and look, but he's made something like 25 of his last 35 shots. And he goes down like 10 seconds later. It looks like a knee. You know, he was on street clothes in the second half with some kind of brace on. So, you know, certainly a major concern down, you know, as we're, you know, second half of the Big Ten season. But if you take that into account, that he didn't play the second half. Rutgers was down 6 points at the half. Michigan State, 6-0 run to end the first half. You know, momentum was against Rutgers. They're without Mag. They give up a 6-0 run to end the first half. They're shooting miserably. But they kept defending. They kept defending. And when this team defends the way they can defend, they're going to beat a lot of teams. And they're never going to be out of it. And that, just going back to maybe that's a long-winded point about ceiling. Yes, this team has a ceiling. But guess what? Almost every team has a ceiling. But what's different about this Rutgers team is that their identity is linked so tightly to how far they can go. Not many teams can defend and win because of how good they're at their strength. Every team has a strength, right? But not many teams have a strength that can extend their ceiling based on everything else, right? Rutgers is an offensive team. They're not a great team. But because of how great they are defensively, it's going to carry them maybe farther than, farther than people would expect. You look at the top 20 in KenPom, Rutgers is by far the worst offensive team, but they're number 2 defensive. And they're so far ahead defensive. Big Ten, they're number 1, way ahead. Offensively, actually in Big Ten play, they're 8th. That's not terrible. If they could stay in the middle of the pack, Big Ten-wise, offensive efficiency, they're going to win 13, 14 games. They're 8-4, huge 2-0 week. Going back to Hyatt, I know I'm a little all over the place, and I'm eating a cough drop to be able to get through this. Pico rode Simpson. He tried Oscar a few times. He trusted Simpson. And Simpson, you know, it wasn't spectacular, but he made some plays. He took a big jumper. I can't remember when it was, but it was down the stretch, and it was important. He nailed it. And, you know, yeah, he had that play at the very end when he threw it away. But he's getting valuable minutes. I mean, that was a Geo Baker freshman year type experience that he just got. Being on the floor at the end. So, this team gutted this game out. I mean, they had everything going against them. They had the worst free throw shooting performance in 2 months. Mag is out hurt. Offensively, they were really struggling. And, you know, Malik Hall was back in this game for Michigan State. Did not play in the first game. He had something like 13 rebounds, I think. What do you have? Malik Hall. Yeah, 13 rebounds. I mean, Michigan State out-rebounded them by 10. It's unbelievable. Now, thank God, you know, I mean, I think it was dictated. I think it comes down to the way Rutgers was able to dictate the terms of the game, the way they were able to dictate pace, the way they made it a slogfest, a rock fight. They got more calls than Michigan State. Michigan State was called for 23 fouls. Rutgers was called for 16. They got to the line 34 times. Michigan State 14. So when you complain the next time, just remember that. And I'm not saying it's unfair. It just happens. And the way Rutgers attacked the rim in the second half, that 27 of those 34 free throws were in the second half because they attacked the rim. And, you know, Michigan State was in the bonus with 12 minutes to play. But Rutgers defended without fouling. They really did. And that was what was so impressive. They've struggled at times. But anyway, my point is they got the home whistle, right? There was a lot of controversy. Why is this considered a home game? Why did the NCAA on Thursday designate this a home game for net purposes? Now, you know, it's a quad 2 game. Whatever. They're 8-4 in the Big Ten. If Illinois wins, as they're playing Iowa right now, they'll tie Rutgers at 8-4. If they don't, Rutgers will sit atop at 8-4. There's 6 teams at 6-5. One on Michigan State 6-6. Rutgers put 2 games ahead of Michigan State in the standings, and they split for the season. So that's huge. So this game was so important as a differentiator in the standings. And I think we'll look back at this game as, you know, every game is important, but this is one they had to have. You know, you go 2 on the road next week at Illinois, at Indiana on Tuesday, at Illinois next week. You might not have Mag for either. You had to get this win today. You had to, and they did. They're 8-4. Now, worst case, all right, you lose both. You're 8-6. 2 quad 1 road games. Not a resume killer whatsoever. Would be disappointing, but yeah, if they can get a split next week, that would be phenomenal. No reason to go to Indiana and be afraid. They've won there most recently. They've owned Indiana. Indiana has a huge game tonight against #1 Purdue. I'm rooting for Indiana. Win that game. Make Tuesday even bigger. You know, it would be very Indiana-like to beat Purdue tonight and then get their butt kicked by Rutgers on Tuesday. I do think there's a little bit of a boogeyman element to Indiana playing Rutgers. I think that they fear them. I really do. But we'll get to that, you know. The bottom line is, listen, Indiana, they're going to beat Rutgers at some point. They're probably in as good a position to do it on Tuesday than they've been in a long time. They're playing well. You know, like I said, Mag probably, I don't know. I don't know anything. It didn't look great to me. So, anyway, this is a huge win in the season, and it showed the character of this team. It showed the leadership of this team. It showed the chemistry of this team. I mean, Cam Spencer, we didn't even talk about. 7 points, 5 of 6 from the line. He made 1 field goal, 1 of 8 from the floor, 0 for 5 from the 3-point range. Rutgers was 3 of 16 from 3. One of the worst shooting games again. Michigan State held them, I think, to, 5 of 32 from 3-point range this season. Crazy. But you win without Cam's best. You know, what else did Cam do? Cam had 5 boards, as he always seems to have. He also had, that was about it. He had a steal, an assist. Not his best game, although I thought he was very solid defensively once again. And, you know, this team's just so reliable. But turnover-wise, also, you know, Mulcahy did turn it over. Nobody else had more than 2. And most people had 1. Mulcahy got credited with 5 turnovers. It didn't feel like that. But as a team, they only turned it over 11 times. And they were plus 3 on the turnover margin. So that was huge. They limited Michigan State in transition. They did a really good job of getting back. And I just think that, you know, this is the way Rutgers needs to win. I mean, yes, we all want them to shoot like they did against Minnesota, but it's just not going to happen much. You know, the key is being smart offensively, getting to the line, getting it to Cliff, Paul taking over. You know, Cam, yes. It's funny, like, I don't actually, like, Cam is so important, but Cam, I don't think Rutgers they don't need him to be the leading scorer. They need him to be everything else that he does and then be a perimeter threat. He needs to make shots, no doubt. Their ceiling is at their highest when Cam is hitting multiple threes and Andre is scoring 2. And neither of that happened today. And they still won against a quality opponent because they still did what was most important. They got the ball to Cliff. Paul took over down the stretch, and they made free throws down the stretch while they were elite defensively. That's the blueprint. That's how this team is going to advance. That's how this team is going to finish top 2 or 3 in the league. That's how this team is going to advance in the NCAA tournament. And we saw it today on the biggest stage. I did think, Michigan State's got a ton of experience on neutral courts. Rutgers doesn't. So I did think that, depth perception, I get weird like that. It's the nut fan of me. Depth perception of the rims, unfamiliar environment. I just thought something weird was going to happen. They didn't shoot well, but they gutted it out, and it was just a tremendous win. 8-4 now in the Big Ten. Number 14 in Ken Palm. They'll move up and they'll stay in the top 20 in the net. You lose both games next week, they're not going to move far back in the net. I mean, you're playing 2 quad 1 opponents on the road. Indiana's right around Rutgers in the top 25. Illinois is not too far behind. If they win at Iowa today, that'll be a huge win for Illinois. So, they're right on pace to finish in the top 4, even better. I mean, they're in second place. So, you have to be really happy with how they came through. Hopefully, Mag's not out too long. But, and I loved, I'll have plenty more in the postgame, but Izzo saying in the postgame that, he thanked McConnell and Mulcahy for how much they've done for the Big Ten. I mean, that's respect. And that shows how well Rutgers is thought of now outside of Rutgers within the league. And he also said he hopes he doesn't ever see him again. So you got to love Izzo. But that was a big-time win today. It was a big-time win. It's a way that good teams win when they're not playing their best. And Rutgers moves to 16-7 overall and 8-4 in the Big Ten. Apologies for my voice. Thanks for watching and listening as always. And, strap in, folks. I watch Bluey. That's where I get that from, my kids. But strap in. The next week's going to be wild. 2 huge road games. You win one of those road games, you're 9-5 with the last 6 games to go where you're going to be favored in pretty much every one, but possibly one. So this team's just got to keep grinding. They're probably going to have to do it without Mag for a little while. But, this team has depth. Andre Hyde's played plenty. If he slides into the starting role, guys are going to have to step up. But this team is a team. And you got to feel really good about where they sit today. And check out all my coverage at thescarletfaithful.com. Oh, last thing. Paul Mulcahy, the Grateful For Foundation, doing a fundraiser right now, collecting goods for mothers, babies. You can find it online, but it's at the APC in the lobby. Drop off as much as you can. Rutgers doesn't have any home games this week, but if you're in the area, drop off diapers, baby items, anything for mothers, baby wipes, all that stuff. Just another example of how classy and quality of kids that are on this team. And we should support everything they do off the court too. So the Grateful For Foundation, Paul Mulcahy, doing that fundraiser, drop off things at the APC, which is right next to the rack. And, let's keep grinding. Thanks so much for watching and listening here at The Scarlet Faithful.